If there is a new assignment on the... I just received word that the Americans have been victorious in battle at Saratoga. It's no secret that the British plan for ending the war was to cut the New England states off from the rest of the country, with Burgoyne's army from the north meeting two others coming from the south and west.
It appears the British plan failed. No way that will happen now.
It appears we need to find out exactly what happened.
We need to find out all the details. Sarah, James, it's up to you. You need to determine the who, what, when, and where behind this American victory. And I want thorough reporting here. Be sure to get at least 2 different thoughts about why people think it happened. And if at all possible, try to make one of them Benedict Arnold. My instinct tells me he was involved somehow.
Benedict Arnold. His bravery inspires the soldiers.
The questions you need to ask are in your notebook. Don't forget to listen for the quotes that contain the most accurate and complete information. Good luck, and Godspeed.
Why didn't the British realize how difficult it would be for them to communicate in the thick forests of New York?
They were hoping that this campaign would lead to a quick victory for the king.
Sounds like a couple of them had their own agendas.
Some British troops recently defeated General Washington in Philadelphia.
Yes, the Battle of Brandywine was a victory for the British, but that didn't help the British in this area. This cabin appears to be abandoned.
No wonder. Cannonballs have passed through the roof.
A loaf of bread. Smells good.
Part of the problem with the British plan must have been the terrible condition of the roads here in New York.
At least there are roads around here. Most of New York is covered with dense forests. Evidently, the Americans started a rumor about a huge colonial force heading toward one of the British camps.
Yes, and that lie caused many Iroquois Indians to desert another British army that was to have joined up with Burgoyne. Without their Indian allies, the British didn't have enough manpower to win.
All's fair in war, Sarah. Thousands of colonists have joined militias that make the Continental Army even stronger.
Speaking of strong, James, perhaps you ought to think about taking a bath here in the river. Sir, we'd like to ask you a few questions about the recent battle.
I have fought in several recent battles. I am a Hessian soldier, serving under General von Riedesel.
The battle we want to discuss is the one that resulted in the American victory.
Yes, the Americans outnumbered us. We had no choice but to retreat. Now, with the Americans surrounding us, we have no choice but to surrender.
May we ask you some questions?
You may, but first the Baroness von Riedesel expects me to deliver a letter to her husband, General von Riedesel. I must go get that letter right away.
We'll go get the letter for you.
The British knew they would run low on supplies last summer, so they sent a German expedition into Vermont to seize Patriot supplies.
That bad idea is known as the Battle of Bennington, and the American militia was the clear winner there. Sir, we're reporters from the Pennsylvania Gazette and...
James, let me. I will be a bit more diplomatic. We'd like to ask you about the recent, battle.
No need to beat around the bush. I'm a British soldier serving under General Burgoyne. I know we're surrounded by American forces. In fact, I know that the conditions of surrender have been worked out.
Then you don't mind if we call it a victory?
Well, call it whatever you want to. I'm headed home. The terms of surrender don't allow us to serve again in America during the war.
Would you mind answering a few questions?
If I wasn't so hungry, I could answer your questions. We ran low on provisions days ago. Perhaps you could locate a loaf of bread for me. Oh, thank you. We've been on half rations for days. I know plenty about the terms of surrender because I'm carrying a very important message from General Burgoyne. It says that we accept the American terms for surrender. Here, can you deliver it to the American general for me? I'll just set it here on top of those clothes. But first, go ahead and ask me your questions.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
Or to know the names of all the Americans. I'll tell you, though, there were lots more of them than us. American militia units just kept right on arriving to serve in General Gates's army.
What factors led to the American victory?
General Burgoyne couldn't wait any longer to attack the Americans. We were completely out of supplies. We had too poor a plan for such American resistance. That fool Arnold had 'em all riled up. They outnumbered us, and were they ever mad. We were out of supplies, and our allies went and deserted us.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
I can't remember. We got here after a long march south. Well, I think we got here in early September.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
We didn't retreat very far before the Americans had us surrounded. Well, I know we're in New York, south of Fort Ticonderoga. Once we left there, we were lucky to travel a mile a day.
Why was the American victory so important?
We retreated in total disarray. It was an embarrassing defeat. General Burgoyne hopes that calling this surrender a convention will make it look like less of a disaster. Well, I don't like to admit it, but the courage of the Americans surprised us all. It forces us to abandon hopes for a quick and easy end to the war.
A message on a scroll. Someone may be needing this.
The British plan relied on help from the Iroquois, as well as a strong loyalist following.
Yes, Burgoyne might have fared better if everyone had remained as loyal as people like you, Sarah. The Iroquois Confederacy is actually made up of 6 nations.
Yes, there are many differing views within the Iroquois, just as there are within the states. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is James. We're with the Pennsylvania Gazette.
We're here to find out about the American victory.
I am from the Mohawk Nation, part of the Iroquois Confederacy. We support the British cause, so this was not a victory for us.
The British cause? But didn't Benedict Arnold enlist some Iroquois to help the American cause?
Yes, the Oneidas are aiding the Americans. This war has caused a rift among the Iroquois people.
May we ask you some questions?
You may, though first I must find a blanket I misplaced. Perhaps you have seen it while traveling through the area.
We'll look for it and bring it back to you. I'm never certain just which branch of a path I should take.
If you stand here and debate it for very long, I'll be finished exploring them both.
There doesn't seem to be any reason to go any further.
You're right. Let's look around here and head back. A blanket. That looks useful.
I've never seen so many hills and ravines.
Don't tell me you're getting tired.
I was just worried about you, James. Excuse us, ma'am. We're from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We'd like to ask you a few questions about the American victory.
Did you fight in the battle? I didn't realize there were ladies fighting in the battle.
Oh, we don't usually fight. We travel with our soldier husbands, cooking, mending uniforms, and tending to the sick and wounded. Occasionally, however, we must bring water to soldiers on the battlefield.
I'd like to get a lady's thoughts on the victory.
I'd like to talk to you also. However, I'm expected to start dinner right away. The soldiers are hungry, and I can't locate a kettle. Could you bring me one?
There's the American camp. Look at the fortifications that surround it.
A Polish engineer named Thaddeus Kosciuszko prepared those fortifications.
I thought building a fort was as simple as nailing a few boards into place.
I bet the British wish you'd built this fort. It might not have been an American victory in that case.
Until recently, General Schuyler was the commander of these American forces.
Yes, Congress replaced him after the British captured Fort Ticonderoga.
The king was a bit premature when he stated he had beaten all Americans after that battle.
When General Gates replaced Schuyler, He moved the American forces here.
Yes, once the British Army crossed the Hudson River, the stage was set for the battle.
I think the stage is set for us to ask some questions. An iron kettle. Very heavy, but useful for cooking food over a campfire. Benedict Arnold was sent to this camp, but it's rumored that he and General Gates have quarreled.
I admire General Arnold's bravery, but he shouldn't defy his orders.
You surprise me, James. You support the rebels who defy the king.
You're General Gates, aren't you? The commander of all the American forces in the North?
I am. Some in Congress believe I should replace General Washington as Commander-in-Chief.
May we ask you a few questions? Moses of the Pennsylvania Gazette sent us to find out about the American victory.
At the moment, I'm waiting for a British soldier to bring a message from General Burgoyne. If the British general accepts the terms of surrender I have offered, I have agreed that we will call this surrender a convention.
We'll find the soldier and bring the message to you.
If you bring me that message, I'll command Benedict Arnold to speak with you. Though he defied my orders, his fearlessness and recklessness on the battlefield helped achieve this victory. Ah, yes. It looks as though the British will accept the conditions of surrender I offered. I've sent a messenger to Arnold's tent. You may speak with him, if you wish. I'd be happy to answer your questions now.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
Congress just recently appointed me to take over this unit. Daniel Morgan and his riflemen rushed from the hill, overwhelming the British. Benedict Arnold behaved like a madman, but his prank forced Burgoyne to retreat. As commander of the Northern Army, I should be hailed as the hero of Saratoga.
What factors led to the American victory?
Our success depends upon soldiers following orders. Arnold will not be rewarded for his mad prank. The tide is turning in our favor. The first battle here was a draw, but we were victorious in the second.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
More than 2 weeks passed between the first and the second battles. We defeated them on the battlefield in early October, but it was 10 more days before the terms of surrender were worked out.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
Luckily, the fighting didn't happen here. During the battle, I stayed in my headquarters. The fighting took place about 10 miles from Saratoga.
Why was the American victory so important?
I bet they'll come to call this battle a turning point of the American Revolution. This victory will inspire the troops to continue their fight. As you must know, Benjamin Franklin has been urging the French government to aid the American cause. This victory may persuade France that the Americans can win, and Britain that the fight is far from over.
I'm expected to start dinner right away. Thank you. I'll get some water boiling right away. Would you mind taking this bottle of ink to General Benedict Arnold? He'd like to write a letter to Congress. He deserves recognition for his courage. I'll set the ink right here on this log. Don't forget it now. But first, I'd love to talk with you while I'm waiting for my kettle to boil.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
My husband fought in the battle. I hear the men cheered and were inspired by General Benedict Arnold's dash across the battlefield, but he'll be reprimanded for defying General Gates' orders. The British leader was Burgoyne.
What factors led to the American victory?
I wouldn't know the details. I'm the wife of a Continental Army soldier. My job is to cook and do the wash, not make battle plans.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
I never forget dates. Actually, there were 2 battles that occurred here. The first was back in September of this year. The second battle was a couple of weeks later. 18 days after the first battle, the British surrendered. Today, October 17th.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
I was in camp during the battle. I was busy tending to injured soldiers.
Why was the American victory so important?
Had my husband been killed during the battle, I would have been left alone and heartbroken. This victory may breathe new life into the American cause, now that the Army has shown Britain, and itself, its might.
A bottle of ink. To write with a quill pen, you must dip it in ink from a bottle like this one.
I've heard a message from the British force in Philadelphia to the British force here was intercepted by Americans.
Yes, the message was placed in a silver ball. The messenger swallowed it when he was captured.
That's not a message I'd want to intercept.
Mr. Arnold? General Benedict Arnold? We're from the Pennsylvania Gazette. We'd like to ask you some questions about the recent American victory.
Are you certain you want to interview me? I'm quite unpopular with the politicians, I'm afraid.
But you are certainly respected by the soldiers.
They admire your bravery, and we do too.
Thank you. I'd be pleased to answer your questions. First, however, I must write a letter to a friend in Congress requesting that they reconsider my promotion in light of my performance during this battle. Unfortunately, I can't locate a bottle of ink.
We'd be honored to help you get that letter written.
I observed one of the soldiers' wives writing a letter just yesterday. Perhaps she has a bottle of ink I can use. Thank you. I'll get that letter to Congress written right away. I'd be happy to answer your questions now.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
We wouldn't have been victorious if I'd followed General Gates' orders and stayed in camp. I don't expect Congress to recognize my part in this victory. Even though I was shot during the battle, I'm sure General Gates will get all the credit.
What factors led to the American victory?
My leadership and bravery were instrumental. When the British divided their forces, our numbers, along with my leadership, enabled us to win this encounter.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
It was starting to get very cold, I'll tell you that. It's fortunate it happened after I arrived. General Gates did nothing but sit in his headquarters during the battles.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
Where it happened is not as important as who was involved. As a matter of fact, neither battle was fought in Saratoga. Saratoga is where the British finally surrendered after losing a battle at Freeman's Farm, near Bemis Heights, 10 miles to the south.
Why was the American victory so important?
I doubt this victory will help my career. General Gates will be sure I never get the promotion I deserve. The British will have to give up their hopes for a quick victory now. And after this victory, France may even come to our aid.
British and Hessian women and children took refuge in this cellar.
There appear to be quite a few wounded soldiers as well.
What a dismal place!
Hello, I'm James and this is...
Sarah, we're here to find out about the recent battle.
Battle? She means victory.
Yes, I know of the American victory. My husband is General Friedrich von Riedesel. He led the Hessian forces fighting under British General Burgoyne.
You're here in America with your husband, a Hessian general?
My children are with us also. It isn't easy to keep the family together under these conditions.
It must be very difficult. May we ask you some questions?
I could better answer your questions if I could locate my journal. It describes everything that has happened since we arrived. Unfortunately, when we were forced to retreat, I lost it.
We'll find it for you. A written record would be really helpful.
I must find a blanket I misplaced. This blanket was made by my grandmother. Thank you for finding it. Ask me your questions. I'd like to tell you how this war has affected the Iroquois people.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
The Iroquois are good British allies. Many of us are trained warriors. Some have been with Burgoyne since he was in Canada. I have heard many of the names before. Gates, Arnold, Burgoyne. But I'm not sure who did what. Most of the Iroquois people are fighting for the British, but some have sided with the Americans.
What factors led to the American victory?
The surprisingly well-led American troops outnumbered the British. Perhaps if the divided British troops had moved through the woods as quickly as the Iroquois, the Americans wouldn't have prevailed.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
Recently, yes. Definitely very recently.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
Yes, I can tell you. We Iroquois know our way around the land. The battles were fought in an area they call Freeman's Farm. It is near Bemis Heights, where the American forces are camped. It is about 10 miles south of Saratoga, New York.
Why was the American victory so important?
I can't tell you why this victory is significant, but I can tell you this revolution has caused a civil war among the Iroquois people. The British have kept the colonists from expanding further west. It is in the best interest of the Iroquois people to help them.
A Bible. Many groups have been inspired by the words in its pages.
A British general was killed during the battle.
General Fraser. Americans shot at the group of British soldiers attending his funeral.
But they apologized later. They didn't realize a funeral was going on.
A journal. Many people keep journals of important events or experiences in their lives.
I could better answer your question. My journal. It would have broken my heart to have lost it. Can I burden you with just one more favor? I must get a message to my husband. If you give this letter to a Hessian soldier, he will be sure my husband receives it. I'll set it right here on the bed. I'd be happy to share my experiences with you now.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
Many of these people living in the north seem to have joined the militias that went to strengthen General Gates' American army. General Burgoyne devised the failed British plan. We were supposed to link up with 2 other British forces and take control of New York.
What factors led to the American victory?
Perhaps if General Burgoyne hadn't spent half his night singing and drinking, and had instead prepared a better plan, we might have fared better. General Burgoyne was wrong not to expect a large, dedicated American militia.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
I'm sure I wrote the exact date in my journal. I had expected to give a little dinner party that night. Let me see. It was early October. I enjoyed the autumn foliage during the interlude between the two battles.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
I do not know exactly where I am. My children and I have spent the last 6 days huddled in the cellar among wounded soldiers. We couldn't even venture out to get water without fear of being shot. But the Americans have treated us with kindness since our surrender.
Why was the American victory so important?
I suspect the British may have to change their strategy. The Americans performed better on the battlefield than the British thought possible. This is the largest British force that has ever surrendered to an enemy. Such a surrender may persuade France to come to the aid of the Americans.
A letter, and secured with a red wax seal.
The Baroness von Riedesel. Thank you. I'll deliver this letter to General von Riedesel right away. It has been so difficult for his family, confined to a cellar day after day. Now, go ahead and ask me your questions.
Who was involved in the Battle of Saratoga?
They outnumbered us, that's for sure. There was an American madman who dashed across the battlefield on his horse, leading his troops against Burgoyne's army. We shot him in the leg.
What factors led to the American victory?
I know nothing about the British plan. I am only here because I was forced to come. We did much better in the first battle. Maybe we should have attacked again sooner.
When did the events leading to victory occur?
It was a fall morning. Yes, of course. The first battle occurred on September 19th, 1777. The second battle, the one the Americans won, was on October 7th, 18 days later. We surrendered soon after.
Where did the events leading to victory occur?
I don't know the names of the places around here. I am from across the ocean. Well, after the battles, we retreated here to Saratoga. It wasn't long before the American army had us completely surrounded.
Why was the American victory so important?
It makes no difference to me. I only hope I will be sent home, and soon. Since the battle, there has been considerable misery and confusion in the British army. Perhaps the British will have no respect for the American soldiers and realize they are in for more serious battles.
This is a reference guide of people, places, and dates of the American Revolution.
All right. It looks like we have some what quotes now.
I must say, we're doing fairly well in gathering when quotes. Ben stressed that we need to gather complete information. I think we should get several more opinions on where it happened.
Fantastic! It looks like we've got quite a few why quotes.
Welcome back. I'm anxious to get all the details.
I'm glad we were able to get the facts about this very important event, even though it was a battle where many brave soldiers lost their lives.
I was amazed how both sides are willing to sacrifice so much for what they believe in.
You're learning, James, how complex the issues are. I have a feeling that the Battle of Saratoga may be the turning point in this war, especially if it convinces the French to join the cause of the Americans. Ben is still in France, gaining support for our cause. We need to make sure that everyone knows about this important victory. Head over to the editing desk to try to pick the best quote. Feedback appears below each of your questions. Good work. If you think you have finished editing, this is the layout area, where you can make your newspaper front page look just the way you want before you print it out. Choose a sketch for your front page and type in a headline. Publish the paper once you are finished. The Battle of Saratoga is being called the turning point of the Revolutionary War. It seems that this American victory has convinced France to join our side. We need to get this story into our readers' hands. Well done again, Sarah and James. You can see how many papers we've sold on the chalkboard. Your story about the British defeat at Saratoga will be of great interest to Ben. Perhaps it will even convince the French to join us.
Oh, this is grand news indeed. A victory of this magnitude should be enough to sway the French to the American side. Their help is essential in winning this war for freedom.
With the war about 2.5 years old now, and winter fast upon us, this is a critical time for the Continental Army.
I sense a story about to break.
As reporters, you'll have to ask the right questions, and get the facts and opinions that make the most accurate and interesting story. As a matter of fact, an exciting assignment has just come in. You'll find it over on the bulletin board.